Okay, so this has been my fifth build with my Swytch kit, and it's 5 months now since I got it. I got it back in February 2019, and it's been really interesting fitting it to different bikes. Been trying it out, and I've really loved it, and I'm still really happy with it. This bike was definitely the most tricky build of all of them, and it was the one I wanted to do the most, really, because this has got hub gears, and I really like hub gears. They're certainly very low maintenance, very simple, and I really like the idea of that. I like the fact that you get a normal chain line, which is really good. But the fact that this has got hub gears and a normal chain line has been one of the problems on this bike for fitting a Swytch kit, and that's mainly because this has got an eccentric bottom bracket, and with an eccentric bottom bracket, the bottom bracket is like this, and the crank moves around within the bottom bracket to create chain tension, and that was partly the issue because the pedal sensor doesn't really account for that. And this is an unusual bottom bracket, so I'm not complaining, just really pointing out just in case someone else has got this style of bike. With the pedal sensor, I did manage to get it working, and this was the method I used. I created a hanger. I went to, I think it was B&Q or Wix I think it was, and I got this metal strip which is bendable but actually not very easy to bend. Put some rubber in between, bent it around. I'll show a quick video of how I did it. So that's how I created the hanger, to be able to get the pedal sensor in under and get a correct alignment, because as you've probably seen if you've watched any of my other videos, the pedal sensor, the angle that it's on is very crucial to this. So depending on the rotation, some angles won't work, so you have to experiment with it before you lock it into place. So I used screw on here to lock it to the crank, because there also wasn't enough width between the crank and the bottom bracket, but that's fine. I knew that could happen. I also had to cut down the pedal sensor, no, not the pedal sensor, the disc, to be able to fit it around the crank to then be able to screw it on. All that worked fine until my chain, which had been on a while, the old chain, I thought, oh, I'll change it because it's been on a while and it was getting a bit worn. They stretch as they get, well, it's wear on the chain. If you look it up, there's all sorts of ways of describing it, but basically the chain got longer, put it that way, so I had to change it. When I changed it, that meant I then needed to orient the bottom bracket differently, and that meant that the pedal sensor now no longer works on this configuration. I played around with it, but basically with the bottom bracket, it's so big that there isn't a way of getting the pedal sensor close enough. Luckily, I have a throttle control, and I'm going to do another video just explaining the two different modes of throttle control. So one where you can adjust the top speed, and one where it's just analog from max to minimum, but I'll do that in a separate video. So that was one of the problems on this bike, and it was fully expected, and it was the reason it was the fifth build, and I did a lot of other bikes before that because I knew they were going to be much easier to do. So fitting on the bars was fine, all of this was fine, all the cabling was fine. Then we get to the front wheel. Now I was going to change out the forks, but the steerer is very long on this. It's a big frame, and I didn't have any other forks that fit this bike. I bought some suspension forks, because they were very cheap on Facebook, but the steerer was also still that little bit too short, so I couldn't get it to go on. So I had to go with the stock forks that were on the bike, because this bike uses 700C wheels, and this is a 26-inch mountain bike wheel, which was what I ordered, and I knew this at the time. The brakes are in the wrong place. So you can see here that this is where the brake blocks would be, and it would basically go onto the tyre. So what I had to do was, and I couldn't put this brake, this is a caliper brake, an old BMX brake, I couldn't put it on the front because of these, and these don't come out. So I had to make a mounting, and I'll show a bit of a video of making that and show it a bit close up. So as you can see, it's mounted on the back. So the front brake, and it works fine. There's nothing wrong with it at all, and it's nice and solid. But it is, I've got a dropper here. I've got the mudguard attached to this as well. But I needed to drop it down so that the brake pads hit the wheel. And I've been riding this for many weeks now, and it's been great. And it's nice to have the gears it definitely saves battery power, because if you're using the battery for assistance and you up the gears so you're just under you're just assisting it, you find that if you look at the wattage that you're using, it's much, much less. So this has been the most efficient of all the bikes I've had. But I really like the pedal assist sensor working, and because this arrangement is always going to be a bit of a pain, and so I've been using it with Throttle since I changed this chain, so a couple of weeks or so, and it's fine, but I prefer pedal assist. It just feels more natural, so I'm going to switch it back to my mountain bike that I had in the first build, which is a single speed bike. I may put gears on it. I can't remember if I've ever put gears back on a bike before, but I've got a garage full of spares, so I'm going to give that a try. But so this has been great. And it was going to be the one it stayed on. I know it looks a bit weird. I ended up putting a fatter tyre on the rear because I don't like low profile tyres, because I go up and down a lot of curbs. I like a bit of off-road, and this tyre is a much more air in it, and it's got much more clearance, and you really can attack curbs and stones and things like that and not worry about it. It's not a hard ride. But the other bike, I've got suspension forks on, and I think suspension forks are more pleasant for a Swytch kit because of the extra weight on the bars. You can preload the suspension, and I really like that side of it. So yeah, it's going to go back on the mountain bike, but I thought I'd do this video just to show this because it took a lot of work. And it may end up going back on here if I can think of another solution, but I really want pedal assist, and I don't want that thing that if the chain wears a little and then I have to move the bottom bracket to create chain tension, then that means that the pedal assist sensor needs adjusting, and this is a bit clumsy. I mean, I know I was just doing it as a bit of proof of concept, and it probably will rust and things like that, so it's going to go back on my Giant, so my first build. Anyway, I hope you find this interesting. Thanks very much for watching. Watch the other video on the throttle control. That's is something that might be of interest, because if you use throttle control, it could save you a lot of battery life. But thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe.